Hey y'all, my name's Chrissy Harris, and this is my lesson plan demo for Project C. My lesson plan is titled The Crucible Infographic, and this is an assignment that I use as I'm beginning to teach the Crucible. I've only ever done it with a Crucible, but you most certainly could do it with anything that you read. It's really just about having the students research information and then presenting it in some sort of graphic format. My objectives are listed here at the top. You can see my objectives right here. They'll show an understanding of the historical background surrounding the play. They'll conduct a short research project. They'll draw evidence from the play and the research text, and then they'll use technology to produce it. All right, so as I said, I do this to introduce the Crucible. I do believe that it's really important that my students understand why the play was written. The historical significance is very important. So if you're not familiar with the Crucible, it is a play about the Salem witch trials, which was set in 1692. However, the play was written in the 1950s, and it is an allegory for McCarthyism and the Red Scare and the hunt for communism in America. So I want my students to understand the historical significance of both time periods. They need to understand the Puritans and what was going on in the Salem witch trials, but they also need to understand why Arthur Miller chose to write this play. So to start out, I would actually just start out with an introduction of what an infographic is and give them some examples to show them for the class. And then once we talked about some examples in class, then I would have them analyze some examples and present those to the class. So here's just some examples that I might have them look at. I thought this one was really cool. It has a lot of data and information. The graphics and the colors really kind of jump out and work for this particular infographic. There's a couple of others in my folder on the drive that we look at as well. So we talk about these. They'll look at some themselves, they'll do some analysis, and then they'll present their analysis to the class. So by the time that they're done with that, everybody has a pretty good understanding of what an infographic is and what they're supposed to kind of do for the play. So after we spend some time talking about infographics, I'll go ahead and introduce the Crucible itself, and I will introduce the research project. So because I teach this at the beginning of the semester, I really don't know my students very well yet. I usually allow them to choose their groups. They're usually in groups of 3, kind of depending on the size of my class. But I usually have them choose their groups, and then they're assigned a particular topic. And I have 7 different topics they can choose from. You can see the topics listed right here: Arthur Miller, Joseph McCarthy, Communism in 1950s America, the House Un-American Activities Committee and the Hollywood 10, Witchcraft, New England in the 1690s, and the Salem witch trials. I actually have made a specific handout for each of those topics. So here's the handout for the Salem witch trials topic. So if the group that was assigned this particular topic, they would get this handout. It has, again, information about what an infographic is. It has a link to my Weebly website where they can find information, specific information for the project. We'll look at that in a minute. And then down here, I've given them some specific information that they need to include in their infographic. So it kind of gives them a guide of where to go for their research and what it is that they're supposed to be looking for. And so I have one of these for each of the topics. And they're all in my folder on the drive. So I'll give those out, kind of explain that, and then I will direct to the students to my website. My website basically has the full assignment laid out for them. So here's my website that I put together a couple years ago. The introduction just kind of talks a little bit about the play and that it's an allegory for the Red Scare. If you click on the task button, which my computer is being a little slow, here it goes. You'll see the essential question, which is, how does Arthur Miller use the Salem witch trials as an allegory for McCarthyism? And their task, where they're going to research a topic and create an infographic. On the next tab, the process tab, that is basically where their assignment is laid out. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to research their topic. They can, we'll have the computers in class so they can use those to research. They can go to the library if they would like to do research, but they're going to find information on their particular topic. They have to find information from at least 3 sources. They can use as many as they want as long as they use at least 3 sources. They also will need to create a works cited page for these sources. This is really important because essentially this is a research project and they need to cite where their information came from. And I tell them to use the correct MLA format. Once they've gathered all of their research, then they can go to this website, Piktochart.com, and set up a free account. So this is mine where I've logged in. I actually don't have any examples of infographics on here right now. I don't have access to those, but they can go to this website and they can create a free account and start working on their infographic. I've put on here that they need to make sure they use a 3-part story format. So there needs to be an introduction, key information, and a conclusion. And there's different ways you can do that with an infographic. They'll need to use images and data visualization. So lots of pictures, lots of like visualizing how the data and the information that they come across in their research. They'll need to merge images and text together, and then they'll need to use color to enhance their presentation. So they'll need to pay attention to that as well. Once they've completed their infographic, they can publish it to the Piktochart website, and then they'll email a link to me so I have access to it as well. They'll also turn in their works cited page to go along with their infographic they've created. Some of my students do the works cited page, they turn in a paper copy. Some of them do it through Google Drive and share it with me. So either way works. I am not particularly picky when it comes to that. The last tab, or the next tab on the website, is the rubric, and I will actually pull up that in just a moment so you can see it a little bit clearer than what you would see here on the website, but there's the rubric for them to look at. And then under the resources tab, I show them this and tell them this is really important. Under this tab, I've just listed information that some links that they could go to. So here's again the link to Piktochart.com. Here's a link to the online writing lab at Purdue University for an MLA style guide. This link is really cool. It takes them to a color presentation guide. So if you click it, it talks about colors and what colors mean and how the colors tell what it is that you're trying to get across, which is pretty cool. It is not going to open up for me, so I'm just going to close that out. And then the last couple resources on here are just some links for more infographic examples. If they're kind of struggling where to go, they have some more things to look at. So once they've started on the project, they will get started, do the research, create their infographic, and then they'll share it with me. The assessment for this is basically, this counts as a formative grade for the creation of the infographic with the works cited page included in that. I actually include this as part of a overall grade for the Crucible. So this whole assignment is worth a total of 50 points, and you could most certainly change the point value with the rubric. Here's the rubric on what I grade them on. It definitely covers the content information, the data visualization, the objects and images, the fonts and colors, the layout and organization, and then also a place for their works cited page to make sure they have that included. And that, I think, is it. I hope you guys have a great evening.